students. I am Hema Rajesh, tutor for biology. I will be covering mineral nutrition in plants today. Briefly, I will run through how to access revision notes and test in clay6.com. Go to clay6.com, click on practice. There are many packages. You can select your own package. Since it's NEET class, I'm going to select on NEET Premium package. Now you find a lot of tests under each subject. Now let us click on Biology 11th. Under Biology, the tests are all arranged chapter-wise. Each bubble is a test. Now the number of tests keeps on increasing, or it is less depending upon its importance in the NEET exam and also the complexity of the text. Now if you look at so many bubbles here, you will find the yellow bubble. It means to say that you have not completed the test. You might have started the test, but you would not have completed it, because after 2 or 3 questions you would have realized it that you are not prepared with the concepts, so you might end the test. Green bubble indicates that you have completed the test, but you can always visit any number of times. Sometimes I would have scored less, so I can come again after refurbishing my concepts and coming to revisit them. I can take the test to improve my scores. Or after completing, I would like to just revise to say whether I'm able to recall and apply the concepts. I might be able to take the tests again. Blue bubble shows that the test is not yet taken, and it is an indicator that I should complete the test. R bubble, this is a randomized test. So as it is made up of all the complexities increasing or complexities are mixed, so that you can just take this test to after doing all these tests to revise all your concepts thoroughly. Now I'm sure, because all of you are taking up NEET for the first time, you would be anxious to know how the question papers would be there. Now we have analyzed the NEET papers, and we have found out that in biology there are 3 kinds of questions. One is NCERT based. Approximately 68 to 70 questions in the examination are directly from the NCERT. They can be attempted easily by those who read NCERT syllabus and the textbook very religiously. So you might ask me, should I memorize each and every sentence in the textbook? It is humanly impossible. To help you in your preparation adequately and to help you recall the crucial lines in the textbook, we have created our test. So if you have this an access to this package, and if you add it to your study material, it would be an asset. Now second is direct from the previous question papers. Another 8 to 10 questions in the examination can be solved if you have solved NEET question papers of previous years. These questions are repeated with little or no modification. Again, we have provided provision for that also. We have included 20 past NEET papers, so that again it would help you in your preparation. Now modified questions, at least 8 to 10 questions in NEET will be newer questions. These questions become the game changer, for these can't be solved by mere mugging up of facts. Though they are from NCERT book, to get them right you need to apply the knowledge that you have about the subject. So this website has made an earnest attempt to help you prepare adequately for all the 3 kinds of questions. Now there is here revision notes. If you click, it will open into a PDF notes. And this PDF notes is comprised of physics, chemistry and biology of both grade 11 and 12, all within a package within 135 pages. So it will really help you to understand the key concepts that are very essential for your NEET and for scoring better marks in NEET. So having this for your study material would be an asset indeed. Now today let me start with the lesson mineral nutrition in plants. Now you all are aware of things now. What is nutrition? You know, nutrition is referring to the food an organism takes, and based on nutrition, organisms are classified as autotrophs and heterotrophs. Plants absorb a wide variety of mineral elements. Not all the mineral elements that they absorb are required by the plants. Out of the more than 105 elements discovered so far, less than 21 are essential and beneficial for normal growth and development of the plant. Now, what is the criteria for the essential nutrients? So it should be absolutely necessary for supporting plant growth and reproduction. Without this nutrient, if the plant is not able to grow or reproduce and form seeds or flowers, then that element becomes an essential nutrient. It must be specific and not replaceable. That means to say that the deficiency of one element cannot be overcome by another element by supplementing some other element, means that element must be irreplaceable. Third one is it is directly involved in the metabolism. So these are the criteria for considering an element to be an essential nutrient. Sorry. Now let us look into how the elements are being classified. Now there are 17 essential elements which can be classified into macronutrients and micronutrients based on their quantitative requirements. Now let us look into macronutrients. So these are the nutrients that are present in excess of 10 millimoles per kg of dry matter. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, calcium and magnesium are macronutrients. Now, what are micronutrients? So, the nutrients that are required in less than 10 millimoles per kg, example, iron, manganese, copper, molybdenum, zinc, boron, chlorine, and nickel. These are the micronutrients. Now, what are the roles of these macro and micronutrients? So, they build up the plant body. So, you know that in the formation of a plant body, various minerals are found in the protoplasm and cell wall of the plants. Example, nitrogen and sulfur are found in proteins, phosphorus in nucleic acid, magnesium in chlorophyll, and iron in cytochromes. Balancing function. Some salts or minerals act against the harmful effects of other nutrients, thus balancing each other. Maintenance of osmotic pressure. So, in order to different anions and cations has an influence on the cell pH, and in turn this also maintains the osmotic pressure in the plant, making the plant become turgid or become flaccid. Now it catalyzes biochemical reactions. Certain elements like zinc, magnesium, calcium, and copper act as metallic catalysts in biochemical reactions, and effects of toxicity. Certain minerals like arsenic and copper have toxic effect on protoplasm under specific conditions. So if you look at all these roles, that means to say these nutrients play a very vital role from germination of the seed till the formation of the seed, and all the other physiological functions in the plant, including the plant growth regulators. For even for plant growth regulators, these nutrients are very, very important. Now, before we get into find out about the nutrients, these will be some of the common terms you will be seeing in your textbook, or I will be using it. Before understanding what this term, before getting into usage, let us try to understand what these terms mean. Necrosis. Necrosis refers to death of a cell or a tissue. Chlorosis. Leaves with insufficient chlorophyll are said to be having chlorosis. Interveinal chlorosis, yellowing of the tissue between the veins of the leaf due to reduced chlorophyll. Mottling. So irregular yellow spots on leaves, which indicates malnutrition or unfavorable environment. Dieback is a condition in which a tree or a shrub will begin to die from the tip of the leaves or the roots backwards due to a disease or unfavorable environment. So with these meanings, now let us look into our macronutrients and micronutrients. So if you look at our macronutrients and micronutrients, we have summarized everything, whatever you are studying pages to pages and pages, we have just put it in the form of a table capturing the essence of the lesson. Now let us look into the role of these macronutrients in the plants. Now the first one is the nitrogen. So you know nitrogen is obtained from the soil in the form of nitrites and nitrates and ammonium salts. Nitrogen is a constituent of amino acid, proteins, amides, nucleic acids, enzymes, some coenzymes, chlorophyll, and alkaloids. It is therefore essential for cell division, full vegetative and reproductive growth, metabolic activities of the cell, photosynthesis, etc. Now let us look at its deficiency. Now, what are the deficiency symptoms of nitrogen? Chlorosis, it starts from the older leaves and progresses to younger leaves. The leaves show mottled appearance of purple or red anthocyanin pigments over the vein. This is commonly seen in tomato and apple. Lateral buds remain dormant. There is no tillering in the cereals. Flower formation is either suppressed or only a few flowers are formed, which leads to the formation of small fruits and less viable seeds. In potato, smaller and fewer tubers are produced. Now let us go to the next element, phosphorus. Now phosphorus is obtained from the soil in the form of phosphates. It's a component of nucleic acid, phospholipids, ATP, nucleoprotein, NAD, NADP, and a number of coenzymes. Since the young cells are the seat of maximum metabolic activities, maximum phosphorus is found in the meristems, fruits, and seeds. Now let us look at its deficiency. Results stunted growth of the plant, premature leaf fall. Chlorosis appears later, which is of mottled type, and it is first shown by older leaves. Necrosis in the lamina, petiole, and skin of soft fruits. Lateral buds show prolonged dormancy, but active buds are not affected. Vascular tissues are poorly developed. The next one is the potassium. So it is absorbed in the form of potassium ions. It is required for the metabolic activities of the cells in young growing parts like root tips and young leaves, but seeds are an exception. It is essential for the functioning of about 40 enzymes which take part in glycolysis, Krebs cycle, photosynthesis, starch synthesis, synthesis of chlorophyll, activation of ATP in many reactions. It maintains hydration, permeability, and reactive state of protoplasm, produces turgor pressure inside the cells for their movements. Stomatal opening and closing is linked to its influx and efflux from the gut cells. Influx means moving in, efflux is moving out. So potassium plays a very important role in opening and closing of the stomata. So what are the deficiency symptoms? Leaves show chlorosis, necrosis at the leaf tip, margin at irregular patches, citrus leaves becomes bronze and twisted. Growth is stunted due to reduced apical activity. So when the apical activity is reduced, the plant can't grow taller. So you will only find that they will start growing laterally, but not there is no primary growth. Apical buds may die. Loss of apical dominance is characteristic deficiency symptom of K plus ions, and it leads to bushy growth. Cereals may show lodging. Now the next one is the calcium ions. Okay. Now potassium, it is absorbed as calcium ions. Calcium is a component of calcium pectate, which is found in the middle lamella. It acts as an activator of enzymes like ATPase, some kinase, phospholipases, alpha amylase, and succinate dehydrogenase. It takes part in it is required in the maintenance of cell membrane, essential for the control of carbohydrate metabolism, plays an important role in binding nucleic acids and proteins in chromosomes, counteracts toxicity of other metallic ions. So what is the deficiency? Fragility of the chromosomes. So chromosomes become very, very fragile, and they can be disrupted very easily. Roots become translucent and stop apical growth. Young leaves show marginal and apical withering. Flowers and fruit stalks break, result in premature falling. Now, after calcium, it is magnesium. It is absorbed as magnesium ions. It's a component of chlorophyll and magnesium pectate. It is essential for the formation of carotenoids required by a large number of enzymes connected with phosphate transfer. High concentration of Mg2 plus ions are found in seeds and growing areas of root and stem. Now, what does the deficiency result in? Sorry, it's magnesium. Chlorosis, yellow, red, and purple tints are often found in the chlorotic areas, especially towards the margins. It is followed by necrosis. Defoliation may occur. Reduced vegetative and reproductive growth is seen. Pith and phloem becomes reduced or remain undeveloped. Tomato fruits have pale orange color, reduced pulp, and woolly flesh. Now let us sulfur. Now sulfur, it is a very important, it's found even in the two amino acids, namely cysteine and methionine, and it is absorbed from the soil in the form of sulfate through small quantities of sulfur dioxide can be got from the air by foliar absorption for the formation of sulfur containing protein. It is a component of two vitamins. In onion and garlic, sulfur occurs in the form of glucosides, which provide characteristic odor to these plants. Sinigrin and sinalbin are the glucosides in black and white mustards, respectively. They enhance the number of nodules and nitrogen fixing bacteria in the legumes. Now, what would sulfur deficiency lead to? So leaves show again chlorosis. There is a reduction in the fruit content, especially in the citrus fruits. Now, generally, the fruit formation itself gets retarded. In tea leaves, sulfur deficiency makes the leaves turn yellow. They had to be green actually, it turns yellow. Now, premature germination of lateral buds, killing most of the young branches. Leaves become smaller and chlorotic. Now, necrosis of the margin and tip of the leaves is seen. The leaves will start rolling inward and rapid defoliation occurs. So, in the sulfur deficiency, grossly affects the leaves in the plant. Now, let us look at the micronutrients. So, the micronutrients would be iron. It is absorbed from the soil in both ferrous and ferric ions. Iron is a constituent of cytochromes, ferridoxin, nitrogenase, catalase, peroxidase, hematin, etc. It is essential for the development of chloroplast and chlorophyll. Many of iron-containing enzymes take part in electron transfer in both photosynthesis and respiration. Structure of polyribosomes is dependent upon iron-containing compounds. It is an activator of nitrate reductase and synthesis of proteins and DNA. Now, if you look at the deficiency symptom, intravenous chlorosis is the main deficiency symptom shown by the iron. Otherwise, there are no other morphological symptoms which you can see. Now, the next one is the manganese. Now, manganese is absorbed as Mn2 plus ions. Manganese ion is an activator of enzymes like oxidases, peroxidases, dehydrogenases, kinases, and decarboxylases. Maintenance of lamellar structure of chloroplast. It is an essential function of manganese ion. Manganese is essential for photolysis of water and evolution of oxygen. Now, what could be the symptom of manganese deficiency symptom? Chlorotic patches are seen in the form of specks for reticulation in dicot and stripes in monocots. That means when you look at the leaf, that is reticulate veins and parallel veins and monocots and dicots will show chlorotic patches. This chlorosis would be followed by necrosis. Leaves can also show premature fall or they may not even develop. Both stem and root experience stunted growth and their apices may die back. I told you, I explained you what is dieback. Flowers are often sterile. So even if they form the flowers become sterile flowers. Now in oats, they have seen the development of gray spot disease, which is due to manganese deficiency. Now the next ion would be zinc. It is absorbed as zinc ions. It is a constituent of carbonic anhydrous. Zinc is essential for the supply of carbon dioxide to the chloroplast and for the evolution of carbon dioxide during respiration used in the production of oxygen, that is IAA. Now it is the three symptoms are intravenous chlorosis. This is followed by necrosis. Terminal bud will die and leads to leaf rosettes. So what happens when the flower dies? There is no flowering. Leaves will start forming rosette structures. Now it is boron. Boron is absorbed in the form of borate ions. It favors absorption of calcium, produces root nodules in the legumes. Now boron is required for cell elongation and carbohydrate translocation too. Now let us look at the symptom of boron deficiency. Causes disintegration of softer tissues. In cauliflower, you can see browning, and in sugar beet, it causes heart rot. That is, the middle of the sugar beet, it will start rotting, and this is what we call it as heart rot. Reduces transpiration due to dysfunctioning of stomata. When stomata, major part that is involved in transpiration is stomata. When stomata becomes dysfunctional, it impacts the transpiration and it reduces the transpiration. So when transpiration gets reduced, even ascent of sap will be impaired. Next one is copper. It is mostly absorbed as copper Cu2 plus ions. Though the element can exist as Cu plus ion, it can take part in electron transport system in both respiration and photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, the copper containing enzyme is plastocyanin. It is the connecting link between photosystems 1 and 2. So this is very important. They will ask you which is the element associated with plastocyanin. Then you should be able to say it is copper. Now what is the deficiency symptom? Appearance of dark green color in young leaves followed by chlorosis. In exanthema, the tree bark shows deep slits from which gum exudes. So exanthema is a tree. So from that tree, the tree bark shows deep slits from which gum exudes. The reclamation disease is so named because its widespread presence in reclaimed lands of Europe. Now, tips of the leaves will undergo chlorosis, hence it is named as leaf tip disease. Now, molybdenum, absorbed from the soil as molybdate ion, it is essential for nitrogen fixation. So what are the symptoms? Yellow spot disease of citrus fruits is due to deficiency of molybdenum. Whip-tailed disease in crucifers like cabbage is due to molybdenum. Flowers show premature fall. In cauliflower, the inflorescence loses its compact form. So, in cauliflower, the flower is said to be good only if the inflorescences are closely packed. When there is a deficiency of molybdenum, you will find that the inflorescence is totally disrupted and it will not have its compact structure. Now let us look into the last element, chlorine. It is absorbed as chloride ions. Its precise role is not well known. However, with sodium and potassium, it helps in determining the solute concentration and anion cation balance in the cells. It plays an important role in photosynthesis and it takes part in water splitting reaction, thus releasing oxygen. Now let us look into the deficiency symptoms of chlorine. So leaves become wilted, chlorosis and necrosis are seen. Leaves develop bronze coloration. Root growth is stunted and fruit formation is retarded. So now when you look at all the symptoms, most of the symptoms, it has to do with the growth of the plants and the physiology of the plants. So these elements take an active role and that's why these are called as essential elements. Now, the moderate decrease of micronutrients causes deficiency symptoms, and a moderate increase causes toxicity. Toxicity levels for any plant also varies from different plants. Any mineral ion concentration in tissue that reduces the dry weight of the tissue, by about 10% is considered toxic. Toxic symptoms are difficult to identify, and as I said, levels also vary from plant to plant. Example, if you take manganese toxicity, it is seen by the appearance of brown spots surrounded by chlorotic veins. Manganese competes with iron and magnesium for uptake and with magnesium for binding with enzymes. It prevents translocation of calcium ions in the shoot apex. Therefore, manganese in excess may cause deficiencies of iron, magnesium, and calcium. Is it clear now? So this is the thing about toxicity of micronutrients. So when the micronutrients are taken, if you think that if you are supplying more to the plant, my plant will grow well, it is false. The plant will start showing toxic symptoms. So we had to supply them as per the need of the plant and as it has been recommended. Soil as reservoir of elements. Essential elements become available to the roots due to weathering of rocks. These processes enrich the soil with dissolved ions and inorganic salts. Soil not only supplies minerals but also harbors nitrogen fixing bacteria, other microbes, holds water, and supplies air to the roots and act as a matrix that stabilizes the plant. The deficiency of essential minerals in soil can be restored by applying fertilizers and manures for the to obtain the better yield. Now let us look at translocation of solutes. Mineral salts are translocated through xylem along with ascending stream of water which is pulled up through the plant by transpirational pull. Now analysis of xylem sap shows the presence of mineral salts in it. Mechanism of absorption of elements. The initial rapid uptake of ions into the free space or outer space of the cells, it is through apoplastic pathway and it is passive. In the second phase of uptake, ions are taken in slowly into the inner space, the synplast of the cells. The passive movement of ions into the apoplast usually occurs through ion channels, the transmembrane proteins that function as selective pores. The entry or exit of ions to and from the synplast requires the expenditure of metabolic energy, which is an active process. The movement of ions is usually called flux. The inward movement into the cell is called the influx and outward movement is called the efflux. Now let us get into nitrogen cycle. So you know that nitrogen is the main constituent of amino acids, proteins, hormones, chlorophylls and many of the vitamins. Nitrogen will exist as two nitrogen ions join atoms joined together by three or triple covalent bonds. The process of conversion of nitrogen to ammonia is termed nitrogen fixation. In nature, lightning and ultraviolet radiation. So what are the different ways they are provided? In nature, if you find that, you will find biological nitrogen fixation, industrial nitrogen fixation, and electrical nitrogen fixation. And finally, they will also be returned back to the atmosphere through denitrification process. Now let us look into nitrogen cycle. Now, so first is in nature, lightning and ultraviolet radiations provide enough energy to convert nitrogen into nitrogen oxides. Decomposition of organic nitrogen of dead plants and animals into ammonia is called ammonification. Ammonia is first oxidized to nitrite by the action of bacteria, namely Nitrosomonas and or it could be Nitrococcus, or you will find both of them. The nitrite is further oxidized to nitrate with the help of the bacterium Nitrobacter. These steps are called nitrification and the nitrifying bacteria are all chemoautotrophs. The nitrate formed is absorbed by the plants and it is transported to the leaves. In the leaves, it is reduced to form ammonia that finally forms the amine group, that is NH2 group of the amino acids. The nitrate present in the soil is reduced to nitrogen by the process of denitrification, which is carried by the bacteria Pseudomonas and Thiobacillus. Now let us look at biological nitrogen fixation. Reduction of nitrogen to ammonia by living organisms is called biological nitrogen fixation. The enzyme nitrogenase, which is capable of nitrogen reduction, is present exclusively in the prokaryotes. Now, what are the free living nitrogen fixing organisms? Azotobacter, Bigernickia and Derxia are aerobic, free-living, saprotrophic nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Azotobacter species, they are aerobic, are the main nitrogen-fixing free-living bacteria. Clostridium is anaerobic. Mycobacterium species, Bacillus polymixa, Escherichia intermedia, Escherichia coli, D-sulfovibrio species, etc., are all nitrogen-fixing organisms. These bacteria add nitrogen to the soil. The nitrogen fixation is a reduction process independent of respiration. The free-living cyanobacteria are considered as major important nitrogen fixers. They may fix 10 times as much as nitrogen as other free-living bacteria fix under suitable conditions. Cyanobacteria are mainly responsible for maintaining the fertility and productivity of the rice fields. For example, nostoc, Anabaena, Cylindrospermum are active in sugarcane and maize fields. Now, symbiotic nitrogen fixation. The examples of symbiotic biological nitrogen fixing associations are species of Rhizobium, which has a relationship with the roots of several legumes such as sweet clover, sweet pea, lentils, garden pea, etc. And the microbe Frankia also produces nitrogen fixing nodules on the roots of non-leguminous plants. Presence of leguminous hemoglobin or leg hemoglobin makes the nodules pink in color. Now, nodule formation, rhizobia multiply and colonize the surroundings of roots and get attached to epidermal and root hair cells. Their root hair curls and the bacteria invade the root hair. An infection thread is produced which carries the bacteria into the cortex of the root where they initiate the nodule formation in the cortex of the root. Then the bacteria are released from the thread into the cells, which leads to the differentiation of specialized nitrogen fixing cells. The nodule thus formed establishes a direct vascular connection with the host for the exchange of nutrients. The nodule contains all the accessory biochemical components such as the enzyme nitrogenase and leg hemoglobin. The enzyme nitrogenase is a molybdenum iron protein and catalyzes the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia. The enzyme nitrogenase is highly sensitive to the molecular oxygen. It requires only anaerobic conditions. The nodules have adaptations that ensure that enzymes are protected from oxygen. To protect these enzymes, the nodule contains an oxygen scavenger called leg hemoglobin. So the main function of leg hemoglobin is to remove the oxygen and maintain the anaerobic condition for the nitrogen fixation to occur. Now let us look into the steps that are involved here. This is very important. They might ask you and show you some things and ask you what is what for identifying A, B, and C. They might ask you to identify what are the parts and what is this, or they might just show without anything and ask you to identify what is this process. So whatever we have spoken now, nitrogen to ammonia conversion. So we have spoken. Now this is how ammonia is formed. Now what will happen to ammonia? Let us look into it. At physiological pH, the ammonia is protonated to form ammonium ion. So when the physiological pH is there, what happens to the ammonia? It forms ammonium ion. This ammonium ion is used to synthesize amino acids in plants by two main ways. One is reductive amination, second one is transamination. In reductive amination, ammonia reacts with alpha ketoglutaric acid and forms glutaric acid. Transamination, it involves transfer of amino group to the keto group of a keto acid. Glutamic acid is the main amino acid from which the transfer of amino group takes place and other amino acids are formed through transamination. The enzyme transaminase catalyzes all such reactions. Aspergines and glutamines, the two most important amides, are found in plants and structural part of the proteins. Since amides contain more nitrogen than the amino acids, they are transported to other parts of the plant via xylem vessels. The nodules of some plants like soya bean also export the fixed nitrogen as ureas. These compounds also have particularly high nitrogen to carbon ratio. So now this completes the theory part. Now let us look into our test. Now, which of the following is not an essential micronutrient? So here if you look at it, essential micronutrient, nickel does not fare. So the choice is nickel. All others have a role and they are all essential micronutrients. Sorry, I clicked too hard. Which are the following elements, essential elements, is normally obtained directly from the air by the plants? It is carbon. Which of the following elements is necessary for translocation of sugars in plants? So if you look at it, it is boron. So for you, when you are doing this kind of a test, when you are taking the test, the revision notes will be very handy. Just see whatever I have spoken for half an hour, you will be able to find them in your revision notes, and in that way, notes are of vital importance. Which of the following is present in the chlorophyll molecule? Magnesium. Chlorosis in plants occur due to deficiency of magnesium and iron in the soil. Most of the nitrogen obtained, of the plants obtain nitrogen from the soil in the form of nitrates. Plants require two metallic, okay, on the, sorry, seventh one. On the basis of the symptoms of chlorosis in leaves, a student inferred that this was due to deficiency of nitrogen. This inference could be corrected only if we assume that alloying of leaves first appeared in the old leaves. Plants require two metallic compounds for chlorophyll synthesis. They are iron and magnesium. Hydroponics is soilless cultivation of plants. Plastocyanin contains copper. The element that causes toxic effect upon protoplasm are arsenic, copper, and mercury. Plant ash indicates mineral salts absorbed by the plants. Active ions uptake means there is expenditure of energy. Iron deficiency results in decreased protein synthesis. A trace element is required for plant growth and in the form of radioactive isotope useful in cancer therapy is cobalt. Now let me go and check why these things have not taken up. Which of the following essential elements are directly obtained from the plants? It is going to be the carbon. Next, let me click to fifth. Chlorosis in plants is mainly due to deficiency of magnesium and iron in the soil. Most of the plants obtain, okay, next is seventh. Let me click and see. old leaves. I don't know why it is not taking. Okay, I'm going to end the test. Now, okay. So here, all the questions what we have answered is right. Suppose if it was a red showing a red color in the question number, it means that I have committed a mistake. I need to go and click to find out what is the mistake and what is the correct answer. If it is in yellow color, it means I have not attempted the question. I can still click there to find out the correct answer with explanation. One thing you have to be very careful, kids, while you're attempting a NEET, your answering has to be perfect. If you're not sure of the answer, don't try to tick using Inky Pinky Ponky, because it's going to cost you 1 mark from your total score. Even if it is unanswered, you're not going to lose marks, but if it is an incorrect answer, you're going to lose from the total score. So better you are very cautious about your marking of the answers, and when you're doing it, do with confidence, and do when you're looking, don't become panicky if you see B as the answer, and don't go and shade the C bubble. So all these things will be able to overcome if you are able to do the test repeatedly, so that you get to know the timing within the stipulated time. If you are able to complete it, your confidence levels will boost up. And so I would still suggest that you go for this package, which has got enormous number of tests. Now you see here, so many tests are there, and NEET full test 38 full tests are there. In this, 15 tests are created by the teachers, keeping in mind all the different kinds of questions that would come for your NEET exams, and 20 past NEET papers are also given there. You can get additional help by using our ask feature on our website, and you can also support chat. We are supporting chat group using Telegram. You can also book slots for one-to-one teaching with the tutors. For any enquiries, mail your query to info@clay6.com. Thank you.